So meanwhile, while the Supreme Court's doing this, the jury selection is underway for, I mean, the most laughable of the
I almost did a spit
charges.
take.
I mean, for the misdemeanor turned into a felony for a bookkeeping way of accounting for a payment in New York.
Well, this is Attorney General Barr was no fan of Trump.
No.
At least not since he ceased to be his Attorney General, has called this case an abomination. Mm-hmm. An abomination, which is what it is. When you think about it, the federal government and the Southern District, which is certainly after Trump, declined to prosecute the so-called election law violation because it didn't involve campaign expenditure. The Federal Elections Commission wouldn't even consider a fine. Didn't even conclude that there was a violation warranting a fine. The previous prosecutor, the district attorney in Manhattan, declined to prosecute. Bragg himself declined to prosecute. But then this fellow Pomerantz writes a book bemoaning the fact that no one would prosecute Trump for this terrible offense of sloppy bookkeeping. And because of the public furor generated by Pomerantz's book, Bragg reverses himself and resurrects what they call the zombie case. And what is this case? Well, the theory is this ridiculous. The theory is, so Cohen, Trump's lawyer at the time, decides to pay off Stormy Daniels, takes out a home equity loan, pays her the $100,000 or whatever the sum was, and then gets reimbursed through billings for legal services, including the payoff of Stormy Daniels. And whoever the accountant was makes a bookkeeping entry that he was reimbursed for legal expenses, including the payoff of Stormy Daniels. Oh, that's a misleading bookkeeping entry, which Trump didn't make, by the way. Probably had no knowledge of the bookkeeping entry. The whole idea, said Cohen in one of his many statements that he's attempting to repudiate now, he didn't want Trump to know that he did it. He just wanted Trump to reimburse him for the payments he made. So the idea is, well, this is a false bookkeeping entry. Well, that's a misdemeanor. And the statute of limitations ran on that long ago. So how does he resurrect these misdemeanors? Because there are 34 bookkeeping entries. This is the usual practice of overcharging. Every check that was wrote is treated as a separate offense. 34 bookkeeping entries, i.e. 34 misdemeanors on which the statute of limitations had expired. So how does he revive it? Well, he says you were trying to conceal another crime, which was your violation of federal election law, a non-existent violation of federal election law. And so that means that the statute of limitations still operates as to that felony that you're trying to conceal. And so we can charge you with felonious bookkeeping entries because the felonious bookkeeping entries were designed to conceal the felonious violation of federal election law, which is non-existent.
That the Federal Election Commission wouldn't do anything about.
Yeah, that's how ridiculous this case is.
Yes.
It's a non-crime.
Yeah, it's a prosecution in search of a crime.
Yeah, in fact, the indictment is not even a speaking indictment. It doesn't actually say that the bookkeeping entries were designed to conceal federal election law violations, which are felonies. It just says he was trying to conceal some sort of felony without specifying what the felony is. So I guess when the trial unfolds, then we'll find out for the first time what the felony is. Or maybe it's in the bill of particulars that defense counsel has gotten. So this is an obvious concoction. It's absolutely ludicrous.
But what's even more ludicrous is they're trying to find in New York City people that are not biased against Trump to sit on the jury. That's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. Maybe, but you know what? There's a couple of lawyers that they've seated already. They're probably Democrats. I would say it's a certainty that they're Democrats.
Yeah.
And then there's an Irish immigrant that they seated on the jury, who was the foreman of the jury.
Yes.
So all it's going to take is one juror to have enough honesty to say, come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And just refuse to convict. So I'm optimistic to that extent. He's not going to get acquitted. But there's enough common sense in one or two jurors who know, as everyone knows, this is just a concocted charge to try to get Trump behind bars before the election.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. You get, because what they've been doing is asking questions of jurors, talking to them to try to make cases for them not being on the jury. And the prosecution's been hilarious because one of the things they've been asking them, they said, well, essentially, paraphrasing, our star witness is this guy Cohen, who's been convicted of lying before. Would you have a problem like believing him? And if you would have a problem believing him, then you can't be a fair juror.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that was the most absurd line of questioning.
And
So
I didn't know that. They're being allowed to ask a juror to find someone credible who's already been convicted of lying.
Exactly. Would you be able to have an open mind as to the testimony of a convicted felon who's a liar? I mean, it's that absurd.
Anybody who says yes to that is obviously going to convict Trump.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Of course.
And of course, the people who wouldn't convict Trump, being Republicans, the few that there are in the jury pool, will be too honest.
Right.
This happens in the abortion cases, too. The pro-aborts say, oh, I can keep an open mind about this charge against this pro-life activist. And so he or she gets seated on the jury if it's a jury trial, whereas the pro-lifer will say, well, I'll try to be honest, but I have to tell you, I mean, I really have pro-life sympathy.
Right.
So the Democrats lie and the Republicans tell the truth. So the Democrats will get onto the jury, and there'll be one or two, at the very least, stealth jurors who lie through their teeth about being impartial, so they can be one of the jurors to put Trump in jail.
Well, and Trump's lawyers already caught a few of them because they started asking them and like, oh no, I have no bias at all. And they go, what about all these social media posts? And they just read out this stuff they say against Trump. How does that mean you're not biased against the guy? Oh, oops.
Okay, I lied.
Yeah, okay, you got me.
But since we're accepting the testimony of liars in this courtroom, can't I be on the jury?
Exactly. Well, the sad thing, though, is really this may not even be about getting him behind bars. What it's really about is tying the guy up in courtroom for 2 months. I mean, this trial is expected to go on for 2 months. Every day he's sitting there wasting his time listening to this drivel. He's not out able to campaign for president. And maybe that really has been the objection all along.
That's a primary objective. So if he gets convicted,
maybe a bonus, right?
So maybe if he gets convicted the way they've structured this, if you convict him on one of the bookkeeping entries on this ridiculous theory, they're all the same entries pertaining to the same transaction.
Yeah.
So there could be theoretically 34 felony convictions.
Yeah.
So what would Judge Mersham do? Would he remand Trump immediately to jail pending appeal? Or would he, because that just stinks to high heaven, not even this hack would do that, would he allow him to remain free pending appeal? Well, if he allows him to remain free pending appeal, I think it's going to propel him into the White House.
Yeah.
So people are going to say, oh, yeah, really? You think you can put my favorite candidate in jail? I'm going to vote for him and we'll put him into office and let's see what you do then.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see.
You really have to get him into a jail cell because I don't think, if you really think about it, I don't think that the fact that he's tied up in a courtroom 5 days a week is really going to negatively affect his ability to campaign. He'll just campaign on the weekends and sometimes at night, like on Friday night, on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, and frankly,
this trial will give him rocket fuel.
That's what I was going to say. Essentially, he's campaigning in the courtroom just by being there.